Today we are going to learn about Azure Networking. This is fifth session, and we'll be looking into things such as virtual networks, load balancers, gateways, firewalls, and all those things. Okay, and what will you learn today? You will learn about virtual networks, load balancers, virtual network gateway, gateway subnet, VPN gateway, and local network gateway, application gateway, and NAT gateway, Azure content delivery network, Azure traffic manager, and some of the security services related to networking, uh, such as network security groups, firewall, and DDoS protection. And so these are the things that we already learned: history of computing, road to cloud and beyond, advantages of cloud computing, features of cloud, cloud abstractions, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and all those things, cloud deployment models, public, private, hybrid. I am telling all these things again because if you have not learned these things, try to revise, try to see all videos. And I apologize, I have to still upload last two that I will do tomorrow. And different ways to interact with Azure: CLI, PowerShell, Cloud Shell. Hope you remember about all these things. Regions, paired regions, availability zones, recommended region, and other region. So recommended region, other region, few people said they got some similar questions. It is related to where you have the provision of availability zones and where you do not. Recommended regions have the provision of availability zones where the other or alternate regions do not have. And foundational service, mainstream service, specialized service, they are not very important, just good to know. Resource groups, resource provider, important, Azure resource manager template, and Azure marketplace. Virtual machines and scale sets, app services, container instances, Kubernetes service, Azure functions, Azure storage accounts, and databases: Cosmos DB, Azure SQL, SQL for MySQL, PostgreSQL, and data migration service. And IoT solutions, big data, AML, DevOps, and serverless. And as always, we will see some extra stuff in the end. And Azure networking and quiz championship. Today we will have morning we did not had, and so then anything everything you can ask me. Know your teacher. As always, I will run through because all of you most probably know me. I am an author, architect, and tech evangelist, and I have written few books, and I speak in meetups and conferences. I take webinars for students. I read a lot, and I want to teach a lot and teach lots and lots of students. And now coming to announcements and thought of the week. First announcement is this is a certification preparation crash course. So we may not go deep dive on all topics. Most of the doubts will, however, will be answered online or offline, and we will deep dive on some of these topics in upcoming sessions. So do follow me in any of the groups, and or through Facebook or Buddy Cult, and you can ask questions. And thought of the week: when you do something every day that moves you in the direction of your goal, you develop momentum, and this momentum, this sense of forward motion, motivates, inspires, and energizes you. And this is again a quote from No Excuses by Brian Tracy. Okay, now you tell me what. So just tell me about any one thing that motivates you. Okay, family, everybody, and and meanwhile there is some discussion about storage and database. Storage and database are two different things. Okay, uh, storage, networking, and compute are generally considered as IaaS in most clouds. If you go to Azure, search for IaaS or PaaS and all, you will see a diagram where Microsoft has marked all these things. Okay, yeah, my family, because I asked some questions outside of a technical topic, because our goal is to not just get certified, to grow together. So people who have come to bigger positions have come there not because of only their technical skills, but because of their interpersonal skills, communication skills, and lots and lots of other things. Okay, storage account does not come under compute. So in any cloud there are three core services. So one is compute, one is storage, and one is networking. Okay, compute, storage, networking. Or everybody please send to all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see. Okay, but so those three are core services in any cloud. So that is, or in even in a private cloud or virtualization. So those are the three things that are primarily virtualized. Okay, and so databases and all are software. Okay, so those are software. So that is the difference. So when you say PaaS, it is a software that is installed on a platform. Okay, database is a software that is installed, and you can you don't have to install or maintain that software if it is a PaaS. But if it is a IaaS based solution, you get a virtual machine and then you install that database on top of that. So who installs that database and manages it, that depends whether it is a iOS or a PaaS. So my MS SQL server, if you are installing it on a virtual machine, then it is a IaaS solution. If you are using Azure SQL from Microsoft, it is a PaaS solution. Okay, so that is the difference. We will come to it towards the end. Okay, so my family and when you get recognized for good work, and so not I think others do not get motivated a lot. Okay, Vishal, myself. Okay, so you need to be motivated, and then whenever you complete something, you always get motivated. So that is why you start something, you try to finish it, and your goal may be very big or very difficult, but again, if you do at least a small, okay, if you do at least small bit of it every day, you are still going towards that goal. Okay, so you are still going forward, you are not going backward, or if you are not staying at the same place. You should always move forward, even if it is very little. Okay, so that will definitely help you go to bigger heights. Yeah, continuous learning. Whenever I notice more posts related to certification completions on cloud, good. So continuous learning is definitely needed to survive and even motivate yourself. Okay, even I like to learn a lot. So let us take a pause as usual, and let us start with okay, virtual network, shortly called as VNet. Azure VNet enables different types of Azure resources such as Azure VMs, and it enables secure communication within internet and between within your network, as well as with the on-premises network. And it so how is it different? So when you say I said right, computing, security, and networking are the three core things that are virtualized. So those are virtualized in private cloud as well as in public cloud. So what is the benefit of using a virtualized network or any of these core services on cloud? The benefit is it brings all the benefits of the cloud. And what are the benefits? It is scalability, availability, isolation, and all those things. And we learned many parameters in first few lectures, right? So it is not that these things are not possible in private cloud or on premise. The problem is, if you want to have scalability, without any limit or unrestricted, you need to have lots and lots of extra hardware put into your on-premise. But with cloud, you get unlimited. Okay, unlimited anyway. Like you don't go to that actual boundaries or actual. You won't generally consume everything that a cloud provider has. So because they will always have reserves. So you can use as much as you want and pay only when you use it. And if it was in on-premise, all these core services, you will need to buy extra things and keep it there just in the hope of using it sometime in the future, and you are wasting a lot of money out of it, right? And it is the same for all other things. And it is a IaaS solution. All the core services are IaaS solutions, and we do not have access to physical networking components. IaaS means IaaS is the first level. Okay, so initially we had physical servers and then data centers and all those things. So first level of virtualization is IaaS, where you are virtualizing the hardware components or physical components with a software layer, the core layer, operating system layer. Okay, so you do not have access to the physical components here, physical networking components, but otherwise you have access to configure everything else. And then VNet is scoped to a single region or location, and you can, however, connect VNets from different regions using something called as VNet peering. And also VNet is scoped to one subscription, and this one you cannot have a VNet under different subscription, but within a subscription you can have multiple VNets. And virtual network concepts, address space. So I am assuming nobody has any doubt about address space, because we learned in depth about address space and IP addresses and all those things in the special class yesterday. And it is a range of possible IP addresses in a VNet, and every resource connected to VNet will be getting an IP address from this address space. Also, if you deploy a VM, so this is just an example, like you know the range, right? So it can be any IP address within that range. Okay, so you still remember, right? So if I need to divide this /16 into two equal subnets, what will be the routing prefix? So this /16, as you learned, is called as routing prefix. So if I need to divide this network into two equal subnets, what will be the routing prefix? Can somebody answer quickly if you remember? Okay, yeah, great, /17. Okay, so you can get it through 2 raised to 2 raised to thing. Okay, so all those things we learned. Good that at least 1% remembered and could apply it. Okay, and subnets. Subnets is subnetworking, as we saw in the previous class. It is dividing a network for a variety of reasons, including security and maintenance. Okay, security part is when you have multiple subnets, and some of the subnets will be internet facing, like for example web servers, and some of the subnets will be private, and you do not have a internet access or public access, but your internet facing subnet or the web server alone can access the private subnet, and the private subnet will usually host the database servers. So the database servers need not be directly accessed by end users. It needs to be accessed only through the web server. Okay, so that is an additional level of security that is possible with when we use subnets. And again, you can even restrict the communication between networks or subnets using something called as network security groups. You will see a bit more about network security groups soon. Okay, and allocation of addresses to subnets and all. I hope it is clear for you. And these things are not very important, but it is good to learn. You can read more and more until you actually start practicing these things. Okay, you can communicate. A VNet can communicate outbound to the internet by default, and inbound you need to assign public IP addresses or a public load balancer. And outbound can be also done using a public IP or a public load balancer, and you can communicate securely with each other. Apart from along with VNet, you can also have additional things like a VNet service endpoint, which secure resources to only a particular VNet, and VNet peering. We saw can be from same region or different regions, and having VNet peering can also increase high availability. And you can have on-premise computers connected to your network. Okay, and you have different configurations. You have point to site, you have site to site, and express route. So point to site means one from a computer to a site. Site to site means from your on-premise any device to your virtual gateway here. And express route means a dedicated private connection without using internet. And you can filter network traffic using either NSGs or a network virtual appliance. And you can route traffic differently, also using route tables and border gateway protocol routes. So these things are not required, but the more and more you hear these terms, it will remain with you, and then whenever we actually learn these things, it will be familiar to you. Okay, so it will not be like some Greek or Latin, it will be something familiar to you. So that is why I put these extras and say something more than it is required. And VNet best practices: ensure that our address space does not overlap with other ranges, and subnets should not cover the entire address space. Always something should be put for future use. And we saw how to divide address space and all into subnets yesterday, right? So, and have fewer large VNets rather than multiple small VNets. Otherwise, the management will be difficult. And you should use NSGs, network security groups, to secure your VNets. All these things you should plan and do. And regarding pricing, you will not be asked for actual pricing, actual dollar amount, but you need to know what is chargeable and what is not. For example, VNet is free, but again there is a limit to the number of virtual networks that you can create under each subscription, which is 50 as of now. Things such as public IP addresses, reserved IP addresses, etc. are charged. Again, network appliances such as VPN gateway, application gateway, etc. are also charged. And VNet peering, both ingress and egress, is also chargeable. What is a load balancer? Okay, load balancer, most of these things are generic terms which is available in other cloud providers and even on-premise also. Load balancer distributes your incoming flow towards multiple VMs in the backend. So these multiple VMs in the backend is called as a backend pool here, and it uses some rules and health probes to actually do this routing. For example, rules will tell you where to go, and health probes will tell you whether a particular instance is running or not. Or so if a instance is not running, there is no point in routing something to that instance, right? So all those things will be done by load balancer. And we can have public and private load balancers. So public is when it is internet facing, private is whenever it is internal. For example, we discussed the use case where your web servers will be on public subnet and your database servers will be on private, right? So in similar situations, if you need internal load balancing, you can still do that. And so this whatever load balancer we saw here is called as a standard load balancer, and it also provides metrics through Azure Monitor. So Azure Monitor we will see again a bit more in detail when we talk about security. So it is say monitoring service where you can monitor things and then we can have metrics and all. And HA ports allow a load balancing TCP and UDP flow simultaneously. Okay, so again, you don't have to remember anything, but the more you remember, it will be good for exam as well as for your future learning. And one thing about this standard load balancer is it does the routing based on IP address and ports. Okay, virtual network gateway. So it is composed of 2 or more VMs, and those VMs are put into a specific subnet called gateway subnet that we create while we create this virtual network gateway. And so these VMs, we should not try to do anything, and actually we can't directly configure these VMs, and those are part of virtual network gateway. Okay, so these numbers, whatever I have bolded, you can try to keep in your mind, and each VNet can only have one virtual network gateway of each type. What are the types? It is one is VPN, so which means you are connecting through internet. Another is express route, which means you are connecting through a private connection. And under extras, gateway subnet. So gateway subnet contains IP addresses that the virtual network gateway VMs can use, and you can create virtual network gateway. Gateway VMs are deployed to the gateway subnet and configured with the required express route gateway settings. So these things you can explore whenever you need to do express route gateway connection. You need to do little more configuration than is needed. And also some best practice, while we can create a gateway subnet as small as /29, Azure recommend that we create a gateway subnet of /27 or larger. Okay, so all those /29, /27, /26 things should be familiar. I am hoping you are familiar with that. And VPN gateway. So VPN gateway is one of those types, and it is important because it is you can get questions around this. And one thing is it can support multiple connections. The same VPN gateway can support multiple connections, and in that case all the tunnels share the bandwidth. So water tunnels or the connection with a VPN gateway is referred to as a tunnel, VPN tunnel. Local network gateway. So this is used to represent the on-premise location, especially when you have appliances. Okay, so we mentioned about appliances, right? Appliances are again VMs. So appliances. So this is used to represent such appliances on premises location for routing purposes. And application gateway. So the most important thing to remember here is that application gateway is also a load balancer. The difference between the earlier standard load balancer that we saw is that it the earlier one used to route based on only IP address and port, but here we can use URI path and host headers also, which means if you have a path like /images, you can route it to a particular server that handles images. And it also supports end-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption means by default if your load balancer is or your front end is HTTPS, your connection from browser till your network, till the load balancer will be anyway encrypted because it is HTTPS. From there you can decide whether to have the encryption connection till your VM or whether to stop it. Okay, so that is optional. So sometimes for compliance reasons you might have to do it end to end, and sometimes for performance reasons you end it at your load balancer. And it support zone redundancy, scalability, and can support up to 100 websites. The same application gateway can support up to 100 websites, which is referred to as multi-site hosting. And NAT gateway allow customers to simplify outbound connectivity for a VM at a per subnet level. It is not yet part of current exams as far as I know. But if somebody who is watching this, who has already written the exam, has got this, do let me know. And content delivery network, CDN. So this is also a standard networking term, content delivery network. Uh, so there is another term which is important called origin server. So origin server is where your actual real files are present. So if all your end users across the globe contact only the origin server, so the load of the origin server will be more. Moreover, origin server will be mostly in one location, and there will be latency for when it is accessed from distant locations. To avoid that, so content delivery network is a distributed network where you will have servers called edge servers or edge nodes or closer to the user, and the data will be cached there. Okay, so this data will be cached there. So there are two advantages. One is when somebody is requesting again from that region, it will be served from this cache servers or edge nodes, and it will be faster. And second thing is, all your requests will not be actually hitting the origin server, and we can so through these things we can even prevent attacks such as DDoS attacks. And there are additional advantages like you can enable HTTPS for domain names without additional costs. You can integrate with other providers. Okay, so so there are providers like Akamai and Verizon which are specialized into CDN. Okay, cloud providers such as Amazon and Azure will have limited CDN networks, but or CDN edge nodes or edge servers. But so these are companies that focus only on this. So with Azure you can integrate with those providers also. And as always, when you use a service on Azure, you can seamlessly connect with other Azure services. Azure Traffic Manager, the important thing to know here is that it does not do any filtering or anything. It is usually for traffic load balancing based on DNS. Okay, so you might get questions just to check whether it is something similar to firewall. It is not something similar to firewall. It is something related to load balancer. Okay, we'll not go into all of security here, just a few things. So one is network security groups. So as you know, network security groups are on a VNet or subnet level. So you can associate it with VNets, subnets, or NICs, and you could also associate it with classic VMs. So which is not very recommended now. So as of now, you can associate with VNets, subnets, and NICs. Okay, and we can specify source and destination port protocol and all those things to block or allow traffic. But NSGs do not encrypt data or do any part in encryption. And application security groups are one level higher. Okay, it is an extension of NSGs where you can define policies based on groups. Okay, you can group VMs and then define policies based on that groups. Okay, and here yeah, so again, so whenever you have more abstractions, it makes your life easier. So firewall, so firewall is a generic term, right? So firewall means something that sits in front of your network, all of your network, and then it can control or filter incoming and outgoing traffic. Okay, so Azure Firewall also uses a static public IP for so that so outside firewalls can identify that this is originating from our virtual network. So there are many use cases, and the As with many other services, Azure Firewall is also integrated with Azure Monitor for logging and analytics. Similar to NSGs, Azure Firewall does not do encryption. It can only block and allow traffic. And one important thing, Azure Firewall can work across Azure subscriptions and virtual networks. Okay, so you saw that NSGs and firewall both can filter traffic. So if the question asks for across subscriptions and virtual networks, then it is most probably going to be a firewall. And DDoS protection. So DDoS is distributed denial of service attacks. So what is DDoS? So denial of service attacks means your say your website can handle 500 requests per second. So attackers will send more than 500, say 1000 or 10,000 requests per second, so that your website will not be able to handle it and will crash. Okay, and so some of the initial security measures that were employed was if from a particular IP, if you get more than certain number of requests within a certain time, you will block that IP. So then again, these hackers became more intelligent and came up with distributed denial of service attack, where it will not be from one IP, you will be attacked from a lot of different IP, so the old logic does not work. Okay, so this is where Azure has a service called DDoS protection, and it can help you in fighting against the DDoS attacks. It is also integrated with Azure Monitor, and it sends metrics and telemetry along with other things, and you can as of now you can get detailed reports in every 5 minutes, and also once the attack is complete, you will get a summary of the entire thing. Okay, so today it was not a very lengthy session, so okay, so DDoS is the question is, DDoS is similar to proxy? No, DDoS is an attack. Okay, so DDoS is an attack. It is a distributed denial of service attack. And okay, I will give one example, one assignment for all of you. Okay, you can answer this assignment, post this under our if you are part of quiz link I will share. Before that, let me tell the assignment. Okay, so the assignment is you have to find out, so make sure you don't repeat the same thing. Okay, you have to find out some of the popular DDoS attacks that happened. Okay, so many big companies including GitHub has faced attacks. So you have to find out some real world use case, real world scenarios where DDoS attack has happened and it has made companies suffer, and you can post it in either of the groups. You can post it in Azure Cloud group, or Azure Cloud Premium group, or even Buddy Cult group, wherever you are. Okay, so somewhere do a research and do, so you will get more clarity. So I need your participation also. So that is what motivates me. Okay, so I asked question, what motivates you, right? Similarly, what motivates me is your participation. Okay, so here comes the first question. You have an Azure environment with multiple Azure VMs. You need to implement a solution that enables the client computers from on-premises networks to communicate to Azure VMs, which two Azure resources can together help in achieving this. Okay, so most of you mentioned correctly. If you have mentioned at least one correct answer, you will get the points. Okay, so virtual network gateway you need, and to create a virtual network gateway you need a gateway subnet, and you also need a virtual network. So it is actually tricky, but if your actual exam question asks for two, I would prefer A and so first one and last one. For the reason it can be assumed that since you already have virtual machines, you already have a virtual network. So what you need to create new is a gateway and virtual network, gateway subnet and virtual network gateway. So okay, so as you can see, answers are based on time. So everybody have different scores because of answering it in different time. So Shruti answered it in split seconds and got it. Okay, so your Azure environment contains multiple Azure virtual machines. You need to ensure that virtual machine, okay, name I forgot, so is accessible from internet over HTTP. Can I modify Azure Traffic Manager to achieve this? Okay, I need to access a virtual machine using HTTP. Can I can Azure Traffic Manager has any role in this? Does Azure Traffic Manager has any role in this? Okay, so Azure Traffic Manager can only route, it cannot filter. So who all can filter and who all can do these kind of things? So it is firewall, NSGs kind of things. Okay, so you plan to extend your company's network to Azure. The network contains a VPN appliance that uses an IP address of something. You need to create Azure resource that defines VPN appliance in Azure. So which resource can represent that? It is a local network gateway. So you need to represent something on premise within your cloud. So for that you use local network gateways. Your website will be accessed by users worldwide, and you host large video files. Okay, and you need a better playback experience. What would you recommend? This is very straightforward and easy. Okay, it is CDN. Most of you answered it correctly. Okay, so new people are coming into top 10. Your company plans to move several servers to Azure. The company's compliance policy states that a server named something must not be or must be on a separate network segment. Which Azure solution should you recommend? Okay, you can put it into two virtual networks. So, okay, so in a way you can segment it. You need to configure an Azure solution that meets the following requirements: secure websites from attacks, and also generate reports that contain details of attempted attacks. So we saw that clearly today. DDoS protection. There are still changes here and there. Which service provides network traffic filtering across multiple Azure subscriptions and virtual networks? Okay, it was a firewall. I clearly told this, and interestingly half of the people mentioned it is NSTs. So across subscriptions and virtual networks only firewall can act. Okay, so other resources are within subscription, including NSG. Your Azure environment contains multiple virtual machines. You need to ensure that virtual machines are accessible from the internet over HTTP. Can you achieve this by modifying the Azure firewall? Or in other words, does firewall has any power to allow or deny traffic? Okay, firewall can do, I mentioned it, right? Firewall can do, NSGs can do, but other things, load balancers have different purpose. They can route, but they cannot allow or deny anything. Azure firewall will encrypt all the network traffic sent from Azure to the internet. True or false? It is false. It can allow or deny, similar to NSGs, but it cannot encrypt, similar to NSGs. NSG will encrypt all the network traffic sent from Azure to the internet. I told the answer already. So okay, it is false. To ensure that a virtual machine named VM1 cannot connect with other virtual machine. VM1 must. Okay, most of you answered it correctly. It is to a separate network. You plan to deploy several Azure virtual machines. You need to control the ports that devices on the internet can access. So, okay, it is NSG. After you create a virtual machine, you need to modify the dash to allow connections. Okay. Okay, most of you answered it correctly. It is NSG. You will definitely get at least one question from NSG for sure. Your Azure environment contains multiple Azure virtual machines. You need to ensure that a virtual machine named VM1 is accessible from internet over HTTP. Will modifying the network security group help? Okay, it is yes. You can also do the same, and if ever you are willing to take a session for others or want to attend a mock interview or anything where your actual participation is needed, you can let me know. You can send a mail to support@tutorial and they will let me know. So your company plans to deploy several web servers and several database servers. You need to recommend a solution that can limit the type of connections from web server to database servers. I mentioned. Okay, so related to your participation, please do participate in something. So don't just do it for certification. So you can all be special. Okay, so don't wait till somebody hires you. Even if you have a good job, so try to always get better of yourself. So many people who are settled in companies think they are settled, but it is not the case. So why do companies do layoff and still hire? Think about it. Your Azure environment contains multiple Azure VMs. You need to ensure that a virtual machine named VM1 is accessible from internet over HTTP. Will modifying a DDoS protection plan help? What does DDoS do? What does distributed denial of service attack do? And what does its protection has to do with HTTP? Yeah, most of you answered it correctly. We can associate an NSG to okay, all of the above. Perfect. You have an Azure environment that contains 10 virtual networks and 100 virtual machines across that 10 networks. You need to limit the amount of inbound traffic to all these virtual networks. So what should you use? Okay, it is a firewall. So firewall can work across virtual networks and even across subscriptions. Azure VNet is free of charge. True or false? It is true. Public IP addresses and reserved IP addresses used on services inside VNet are charged. True or false? Okay, all of you answered it correctly. So most probably we'll have one more. VNet peering ingress and egress both are charged. True or false? It is true. And so here comes our final. Okay, so today's winner is Anu, and so many other new faces within the top 10. Good to see. Okay, quiz championship is done. Okay, CloudRx, we learn, innovate, we focus on cloud, open source, we other and all those things. So this is the current learning plan. So September we will plan to take AZ-900, and October AZ-104, and November AZ-204, December AZ-500, and coming Jan AZ-400, DP-900 in Feb along with DP-200, and in March AZ-304. But if there are any serious requests, I will try to change the order. But this is the current planned order for our learning. And one note to all people out there. So if you are a trainer, okay, so I am not charging for training. That doesn't mean you cannot charge. So if you want to share about your training, so rather than sending armies of copy paste variants to share about your training, you can actually come and take one of the topics. Okay, you don't have to take a complete ASR 144 course or ASR 900 topics. You can coordinate with me and just take one session, okay, any one session for the group, and then you can tell, okay, so this is me, this is how I take the class, and this is what you can expect from my class, and then you can ask them to enroll for your course. That is perfectly fine. Okay, let us keep our groups clean, and it will actually will be good. You can make a good connection with people, because people will not be, because if the training is good, people will definitely pay you and learn from you. So please do that. Okay, so I am taking it free for a different reason, but you are free to charge it for your effort, for your for the knowledge you gained. But rather than spamming the group, come here, take a session for the group, and let them decide on their own, seeing how you take the class. Okay, running through summary of initiatives, Q4 English, where you will learn and get better in your communication. Video tutorial for the students, by the students, you know. If you are a job seeker, you can also join, or you can also volunteer and help others, even if you are not a job seeker. And Buddy Cult is our community website, where you have everything similar to a standard website. Alongside, you can also have courses and train. So it's an initiative for paid training and all those things from my parents. And so this is the CSE cafe, which I mentioned yesterday, which I plan to launch full-fledged in the coming week, where you will be learning a lot more than this cloud or programming and all. You will be learning a lot of computer science. For already a computer science engineering people, it will be a refresher. And for those people who are not from computer science background, many people told me they are not from computer science, but they want to get better in cloud. So that is also for them to get better. And okay, so yeah, so Boni is our champion today, who actually passed the exam. So hope others can also do it. I will talk to Boni later, and then we'll figure out how the exam was for him. Okay, so others can also pass. There is nothing stopping you from learning and passing. Okay, so any other questions? If I missed it, okay, so if you send to all panelists, only I can see. So if you are sending some congratulations to others, you have to select all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, they will not see that congratulation, only I will get it. Okay, or even best of lucks. Okay, so bye bye. So have a nice day if you are in US or any of the similar time zones, and have a good night if you are in India. Okay, so bye bye for now, and see you soon. And Do contact me if you are planning to write exam in next 2 to 3 days. I will work alongside you and I will help you. Okay, bye bye.